Hey everyone, thanks for listening to my podcast and sharing what you've learned with others who may be suffering from addiction, PTS, depression, or whatever it is. You may be struggling also, or you are interested in connecting with people who are making a difference in this world. If you care to reach out to comment, lend advice, share an idea, or even be on the show, reach out to me. You can email me at mkoch1515@gmail.com or call or text at 760-224-6631. That's mkoch1515@gmail.com or 760-224-6631. Remember, you can't keep what you don't give away. Okay, today I talk with Nancy Bohl-Penrod Ph.D. She is a mental health professional who specializes in trauma and first responders. She is the director of the Counseling Team International and Southern California Critical Incident Stress Management Team. She is also a member of PSPSA, which stands for Public Safety Peer Support Association. And she talks about the history of peer support in California, stemming back to the 70s, how she got involved in it, and how she got involved with working with first responders. So enjoy the show, and please reach out if you can.
Hi, this is Mike Cook, and welcome to Positive Connections Radio. This show is intended to help break the stigma of mental health issues among first responders. I know from personal experience how PTSD, depression, and addiction can take over your life while suffering in silence. I was a police officer for 19 years and spent the last 10 years of my career as an undercover narcotics detective. I didn't reach out because of fear, lack of trust, shame, and stigma. It took me losing it all before I got help. With a new perspective and passion for life, I can now help others find a way out. Working together with peer support, wellness units, and the mental health and recovery field, we can bring about positive change for the ones who protect us all. The guests on this show offer unique and valuable information, support, and experience, and are the voice for those waiting to be heard. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be helping out.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about how you started off in all this and what led you to working what you're doing right now with first responders.
Okay, well, it goes back a long ways, I want you to know, but
Okay.
I actually started working with first responders because I was married to a police officer who was injured in the line of duty. And when he got injured, I experienced his department not doing much for him or helping him or helping us. They kind of decided that, well, he's going to retire, so why would we offer any help? And I was a little taken back by that. And at the time I was in college. And so I started to write all my papers about the law enforcement view of early retirement, of death and dying, just anything that related to any class that I was asked to take. And I was getting my master's degree in counseling education. And I decided that I would just write anything I could regarding the police officer's point of view and from the family standpoint. So as soon as I could, I went to do an internship at San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department at the county. And I was doing an internship with the Sheriff's Department. And as soon as I could, when I got my license, I decided to go ahead and work with law enforcement and the fire service. So I began to go out on calls for the Sheriff's Department, the fire department, and responded to those events that were critical. And I was asked by the FBI to come back to Quantico at their academy and go through several of their conferences that they provided on different subjects that related to law enforcement. And when I did that, I just got more and more involved, and my private practice ended up being primarily first responders.
Wow, what a great honor that is to be going to Quantico. How did your papers do? And in your husband at the time getting injured like that, did that spark a passion in you to, give back to the first responder community and maybe, help break that a little bit in departments?
Yes, it did actually. Mike, what happened was I became so passionate from the law enforcement family point of view. Why the law enforcement family was forgotten, why they didn't provide any support services, why they didn't have peer support. I mean,
Right.
How come they didn't do anything for us? And so it definitely kicked into gear a passion. And then with about the papers, my papers were a hit because nobody at the time was writing about law enforcement,
Right.
Or first responders. And it took me a while to understand that the fire service was part of the whole critical incident. I ended up working a very gruesome homicide, and the fire department about 3 months later called me and said, you helped the sheriff's department, you helped Chino Police Department. What about us? Why were we forgotten? And I was like, wow, I am so sorry. I never even thought about fire. I was so focused on police. And that's when I started to provide services to the fire department.
That is so great. I love it. And what do you think about the changes you've seen? I know we're going to go back, and I want to hear about all that you've been doing. I know what you've been doing, but I want everybody else to hear it too. And what do we think the wave has been over the last, maybe 15, 20 years? I know recently, within the last, 7 to 8 years, it's been an increase in awareness, and a lot more of first responders are standing up, and actually the command staff are actually more understanding of the critical incidences that we all go through and the negative coping mechanisms a lot of us end up doing, or retiring, or quitting, or getting fired. And what have you seen the culture changing?
I love the question, because I think it's because those that are in positions now of power, and what I mean by that, those that are running the departments, the chiefs, the sheriffs, the assistant chiefs, they all grew up with it. They had the first classes in the academy about mental health preparation. And so now they are the decision makers. And so because they have lived through it and know the benefit, now they are the ones to say yes to the services. Yes, we want that. Yes, we love peer support. And oh yes, I remember my incident when we had debriefings and how that made me feel. And so I think the transition has just been, there's a generation of law enforcement now that are in the decision-making position that believe in it because they've experienced it.
Exactly. And they make it less of a threat for someone actually to go get help.
Yes.
You got out of Quantico, you got trained, and you're working with the fire department. So where'd you take it from there? Well,
first of all, I couldn't do it alone any longer because we just kept getting, and I started to contract with different agencies, and then I started to interview clinicians that were interested in working with first responders. And if they were interested and didn't have the experience, put them through intensive training, and then they had to shadow, and they had to learn the job as much as they could without doing it. And then I sent them to the academy, and they'd go through some of the academy classes and learn what the cadets were learning, and to send them to homicide school so they knew that what it was like to go into a homicide scene or help the homicide detectives. And then I'd send them to hostage negotiation training, and the FBI was kind enough to train many of my clinicians in hostage negotiations. And so the training continued. Then it was ride-alongs, fly-alongs. We call them dispatch-alongs. They'd go to a fire station and hang out and learn what that was like. So I provided so that they would learn as much as they could, and found really dedicated people.
And how important is it for the first responder community to have a clinician they can trust, and also clinicians that is actually trained and understands the culture of law enforcement, fire department, border patrol, all of it, dispatching? That's very important.
Yes, it is. Well, it's important because, well, let me put it this way. You have your own lingo. You know that. You were a cop for 19 years.
Roger.
You have your own lingo. You know, you have to learn the lingo. You have a certain personality that you need to kind of understand. You know, the black sense of humor. You know, the cop sense of humor. You have to understand that so that you aren't alarmed. And if someone walks into your office armed, obviously, if they're in uniform or, you know, they have a gun on their ankle, you can't react because, this cop is armed sitting in my office. You know, you have to be okay with how law enforcement in the fire service is. And that means you become more culturally competent. Now, having said that, you don't have to be married to someone in law enforcement. You don't have to be married to someone in the fire service. You don't have to have a brother, a son, a sister. You know, you don't have to be from a family of a first responder to understand them, but it does give you a little more of an edge.
Yeah.
You know, my husband, law enforcement for 38 years. Okay. When I talk to a spouse, she doesn't come talk to me because my husband was a cop. That's not why they come to me. However, in the treatment process, I may be able to help a little bit more because my husband was in law enforcement.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean it makes me the only clinician that they can ever get help with. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense, for sure. Yeah, you're not the only one, but you know, it seems like you've reached out your hands everywhere. The clinicians that you work with have gotten, you know, top quality training. I mean, going to the academy, going to the, you know, probably firing range, sitting in dispatch, doing all these classes, homicide, you understand, and you get to hang around them and you get to hear the humor. Yeah, it's very dark, satirical, and there's a lot of very violent things we see out there, and the lingo is different. And if you don't understand it, and if you're shocked by it, and you are a clinician, then I have so much respect for clinicians that actually step down and say, okay, look, I really am getting affected by this. Maybe I can refer you to someone else instead of trying to deal with it and get through that session and then like break down afterwards saying like, I need help myself now because I heard some horrific things, right?
Right. And, you know, I have to tell you, peer support has been huge also in helping with the department's understanding the benefits of mental health, because the cops and the firefighters and dispatchers, 911 operators, when they go and they talk to someone who does the same job and that person has the skills to listen to them, you know, let them lean on them. Right. And, you know, hold their hand through some of the tough things, that builds a rapport, a respect, and the peer supporter becomes the conduit for the person to go to professionals.
Yes.
And that process is amazing. It's amazing. And included in that are chaplains. You know, chaplains are so helpful, like peer supporters, and they're just a conduit because, as you know, a cop may not pick up the phone, like you said, you know, worried, you know, don't trust, you know, somebody that they don't know, and they're sitting, you know, they think, you know, we're all sitting around smoking pipes or whatever, and with beards, and that we're not, and that we're going to analyze. That's not quite what we do. So when it comes from a peer supporter, hey, don't worry about it. She'll be able to help you, or he's going to be able to help you, blah, blah, blah. That makes a huge difference.
I think peer support is number one, and it's getting stronger and stronger. The more people I contact from different departments, that's one of the very first things I ask them about, is how their peer support team is, and if they have one, and if not, direct them to start building one, and getting in touch with people like you to help them along. So that is a safe landing for officers, any first responder, to actually reach out. And chaplaincy, yeah, especially in San Diego County, it's really have grown so much and so strong with the PD and San Diego Fire Department, and it's essential. It is critical.
Oh, it is. It's huge, and I think the more time goes on, and the more that people say, "Hey, you know what? They didn't give that information up," or "Hey, I didn't get in trouble," or "Hey, my chief never found out," or they really did help, and
Right.
I didn't feel, I felt safe. The more that happens, the more that word gets out, the more people will go for help. And going for help, and I just want to tell you a quick story. I talked to someone this morning, and this person said, he's in law enforcement, and he said, my wife told me I just need to unload and stop unloading on her. I said, that's okay. You can unload on me. And he's like, she just can't handle it anymore. I said, hey, it doesn't make her a bad wife. It just means that she's with you a lot, and she wants to defend you, and she wants to carry it for you. Mm-hmm. And I said, that will not be my position. And I said, just unload, and we'll process and walk through everything. That's all he really needed. He doesn't have a bunch of problems. He can still work. He can go out there. This is not something, it's not like that. For him, he just needs to unload the bucket, dump it out, and know that it's not going to seep through the doors.
Right. I love that. Knowing about you, I've since I've ended my career and started in recovery, your name kept coming up, and probably about 4 years ago, you started a program called PSPSA, and that sparked my curiosity. And I was like, finally, there's something out there that we can all get together, because my goal was to reach out all across the country. I mean, eventually all across the country, to find ethical, good people out there that first responders can trust and speak like you speak, and understand like you understand, and like your clinicians understand, and the people that you work with, and to develop that trust and recommendations. Tell us a little bit about what PSPSA is.
Oh, yeah, that's very near and dear to my heart. Peer support. I'm going to start with a guy by the name of Dr. Marty Reisner and a psychologist named Dr. Nels Cliver. They started peer support actually in the early 70s, and it was trying to help the officers, like some officers help out their officers with substance abuse. So the focus was substance abuse. And then Boston PD and Baltimore started their programs. And again, it was all focused on substance abuse. No one really thought about, well, what about the person going through the relationship breakup? What about the 16-year-old who's acting out? So time went on, and Dr. Nels Cliver, who I highly respect, did tons of training to supervisors at LAPD, taught them how to, help the person that comes to them and needs the help. And Nels was amazing. Well, then Dr. Roger Solomon, that worked at Washington State Patrol and also helped out the FBI, started looking at well, maybe we should do something and teach more peer stuff on not just supervisors, but peer stuff. And he ended up in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And this was in the early 80s, and started to teach the Colorado Springs Police Department, along with the FBI, just some skills, basic peer support skills, we call them. But at the time, the word was counseling, peer counseling, peer counseling, peer counseling. And then around, I think it was 1980, about 1987, the Riverside Sheriff's Department had a deputy chief who contacted me and said, what do you know about peer support? And I went, I don't know that much about it, actually. And he said, well, come on over to my office. I'm going to give you some stuff to read. So he gave me some information from LAPD, and he gave me some information from Jim Horn, who was the FBI agent, and Dr. Roger Solomon. So I read it, and I really didn't pay too much attention to it, but I read it and let it drop. So he called me up. Oliver Thompson was his name. He called me up, and he said, hey, look, what do you think? You think Riverside Sheriff's Department should start a program? And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm not sure they'll say the right thing. I was kind of like him, hon. He goes, okay. He goes, I'm signing you up for the class in LA, and I want you to go through it. And then when you come out of it, you come talk to me. And I was like, I have to go for 3 days to LA? And he's like, yes. So I went through the class in LA, and I have to tell you, I left with a whole different attitude about it. I left feeling like, you know what? I was closed to it because I thought, well, you had to be professional. You had to be licensed. You had to be a clinician, blah, blah, blah. I thought, you know what? It just made sense. It just made so much sense. And it made sense that it wasn't just about substance abuse. And so in 1988, Corona Police Department and Corona Fire said, let's do peer support. And Orange County Fire Authority said, let's do peer support. And so we put together our own training. And that training goes on till today. And we've trained over 12,000 first responders. Coronado, in San Diego, Coronado, Carlsbad PD took our training. The Sheriff's Department, all of Orange County Sheriff's Department program started right after Samantha Runyon was kidnapped and murdered. When that happened, the sheriff at the time, who was Corona, said, let's get peer support going. So peer support became driven by incidents, actually, but it became one of the ways that departments were offering help to their employees. And actually, it's been ongoing. Well, around 18 or 17 years ago, we started a organization that was peer support in California, and it went on for a while, and then it kind of faltered and floundered, and it got canceled. So when it got canceled, Anaheim PD, Lieutenant Lorenzo Glenn, San Bernardino fingerprint analyst, Annabelle, who were part of that other organization, who actually getting ready to be president and vice president, said, you know what, this doesn't work. This is going to collapse. Would you help us put one together? And I was all for it. And I said, let's do it. Let's go for it. So we gathered together. We got a bunch of people that wanted to be on the board. And we are now 5 years into it.
Yeah.
And happy to say that last year, our 4th year, there were 700 attendees. We had to shut it down.
Wow.
And there were peer supporters from 21 states, 2 or 3 countries. And I can't tell you how many departments. I want to say, I don't know. I don't remember actually how many departments were represented. 211, I was just told.
All right.
200,
I believe it.
211. My secretary popped her head in, Brenda.
Oh,
She's on the board.
Brenda?
She's on the board. Yeah, she popped her head in and said 211.
Nice.
211 departments, and it is run, it's a nonprofit, so all the money goes into the organization. Nobody is paid on the board for their time. San Diego PD is a committee member. San Diego Probation is on the board. LA County Fire is a board member. LA County District Attorney's Office, a San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, Counseling Team International. We have committee members from Oxnard, Santa Barbara Sheriff, Santa Barbara Fire Department. There's a bunch of people that all pitch in, give their time to make the organization a success. And it has been amazing, amazing. So our next conference is year 5, which will be in November 2nd through the 6th in San Diego at Paradise Point. And the speakers are fabulous. Last year, we had 170 firefighters attend, which was the highest firefighter group that's ever attended. And we hope to have that many and even more this year from fire. We have dispatchers, probation, military, district attorney offices, victim witness. It's law enforcement. We have federal, ICE, Border Patrol, USDA, also U.S. Marshals attend, and DEA attends. So they all come from all over the world, actually, to go to the conference, to network, get to know each other, to understand each other's cultures and their different professions, because sometimes police don't understand dispatchers, dispatchers don't understand DEA, DEA doesn't understand what firefighter does. So It is the only conference, and this is very important. You can go to any dispatch conference you want to. You can go to a fire conference. You can go to a law enforcement conference. You can go to a federal conference. You can go to all those you want. This is the only conference that brings them all together.
You don't have to sell me, Nancy. I know 100% exactly where you're coming from and what.
And you were a guest speaker for us, weren't you?
I was.
Your story touched a lot of lives, Mike.
Oh, I'm so glad. It brings together all first responders, just like you said, in one group. And you have so many different things going on, and you guys work your tails off. I mean, and it runs so smoothly. It's very organized, even though, you might be thinking otherwise while you're doing it and stressed out about it. You really pulled it off every year, and it keeps getting better. And I think people are becoming more used to it because the community that we have there with the fire departments and police together and the chaplains and everybody that's working, even the booths that you have very few of them. I think there's a limit that you have, but you have just such talented people. I believe in what they're doing, and we're all doing this together.
We are, and that is so important to say that. This is about helping. And one person may feel like peer support helps. That's awesome. Another person might say, I don't want to talk to a peer supporter on my department. I'd rather talk to a peer supporter on a different department. That's great. Right. Somebody might say, I don't want to talk to peer support. I'd love to talk to a chaplain. And super. And then some might say, I'd rather talk to a clinician. Okay, well, there's a whole bunch of people that care about first responders that they can talk to. It's not about one group. It's not about one discipline. It's about just getting the person the help that they need and where they're the most comfortable. And that's what PSPSA does.
Yes, definitely. And I've been thinking to myself, I haven't really talked to you about it, but I'm like, down the road, this thing has grown so much, you have to cut them off. Maybe having it a couple times a year, or maybe finding a bigger venue, or maybe just locking down what you have right now and keeping it the size. I don't know where you're going with it, but what you're doing is really working. And the connections that we're making there from all over the country. I mean, you said there's 21 different departments or 21 states that were involved.
States.
Yeah, and I met people from all around the country, and it's amazing hearing their stories and seeing their eyes open up too when you're talking about like peer support. Some of them never had a peer support, and some departments were hesitant in even sending them, and some of them they're on their own dime. Get a hold of Nancy. If you can fly down to San Diego once this, COVID situation is under control and we're able to have large gatherings again, it might look a little different, but definitely attend because it's really it's amazing. Great experience.
Oh, good. Thanks. Thank you, Mike. And, I do want to say that the people that run it, Brenda Holsey, Julie Coote, Annabelle, Frank Bell, Christina Nikes. I mean, there's a lot of people that are behind the scenes running it. They really do the good job. They're the ones that make it look like it's seamless. And we are thinking, we did take away some tables for this year, and so we can fit more than 700. And then we'll make a decision. My goal would be, let's go to the conference center in San Diego.
Damn right, baby. Yep, bring it on.
Hey, no stopping us. Public Safety Peer Support Association.org.
That's right. And your name will come up and a lot of other ones too. And you also are associated with the Counseling Team International. Yes,
Counseling Team International.com. And I'm with a wonderful group of people, clinicians, chaplains, peer supporters, and support staff, and we provide our services all over the nation, actually.
And I know that firsthand. Again, I work in Newport at Simple Recovery. Dr. Odom too. I think that maybe he's coming down there this year also. And we get referrals from you guys, and I've talked to numerous clinicians on your staff, and they're polite, they're professional, and they know what they're doing. And they're connected all around the country with a lot of different organizations, state and federal. So it's amazing what this has grown out of. And I know it's taken some time. However, the momentum that you and your team have put together to bring a positive change to this world and connect with others around the country that are thinking similar things. Who says they can't have peer support meetings, in New York or Florida or where?
You're absolutely right. But I have to tell you, and I just want you to know, the fact that you joined Simple Recovery really fills my heart a lot, because they're the only ones that I've met that have stayed on course for first responders. We've dealt with a lot of others that they don't work out for whatever reason. Maybe they had good intentions, and that's fine. But Simple Recovery is the place that we're comfortable sending our first responders. So it's the only place we'll send our first responders.
Thank you so much. I'm overjoyed and blessed for what I do. It's amazing. We have got a great team. They feel comfortable, like, okay, he or she gets it. I'm ready to do some work.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, awesome. And so the classes that you go around and teach, is that the CSIM class, Critical Incident Stress Management? I know that you've been involved in that.
Yes, I teach that. Yeah, I teach that. CISM, suicide prevention and intervention, police officer, behavioral health and wellness at leisure, basic peer support, advanced peer support. What is it like being married to a cop? A significant other for law enforcement, all kinds of different ones. We have about 40 different classes that we teach. Sometimes departments will say, can you teach us one on holiday stress? Our people are stressed out at the holidays. Sure, we put the class together. We have a lot of fun classes that we teach. The marriage and family one it's called with the circle in it. We do suicide by cop for those that are listening, that some of us call it suicide by proxy or suicide by cop. which is, the suspect, pushing the law enforcement into taking their life.
Yeah.
And then hostage negotiation, how to deal with, or stress to the negotiator, how to deal with the mentally ill. I mean, it just goes on and on. We love to train. We have a whole entire training division. There's 3 people that manage that. And then there's we have about 15 different instructors. So they take one on substance abuse, of course, medication, I mean, all kinds of things.
I don't remember these kind of classes when I was a cop, and I wasn't really looking for it. I wasn't looking for any kind of, we used to call it touchy feely, or and it was just more of like I wore that vest and badge, and I can take care of my own stuff. But I learned that opening up and trusting that and getting that training. I love training. I have thousands of hours of training. However, I never really had training in emotional management, maybe, or positive coping mechanisms. I didn't really look at myself. I was always looking outward on things. So I think it's so important.
Right. Yeah. There's a great emotional intelligence one. There's
Sure.
Compassion fatigue, vicarious traumatization, the stress to the 911 operator, critical incidents for different professions. And now we are, of course, we're working the COVID-19.
Yes.
And,
so what's
with
that like right now
that,
with you?
Oh my gosh, it's been, first we went telehealth. We needed to go telehealth because, we went telehealth January 1st. So we were way ahead of it. And that's because the fire department personnel kept asking us
Right.
to do the telehealth. And so we did it January 1st, which we lucked out because then this happened. So many they're scared, they're afraid. We're trying to, we're doing all kinds of information for them on how to handle your kids, how to handle the depression, being cooped up. It feels like prison to some,
Sure.
It's, how to handle the kids acting out, not going back to school, how to homeschool. I mean, it's been crazy for us, but we're fully operational. We've been doing debriefings with masks on out in the parking lot. For some departments, we're doing them 6 feet apart. I just taught a class in San Diego, and it was 6 feet apart.
Really?
Yep. I took a mask with me. I took Clorox wipes and Lysol. So everybody's doing everything that they can. Lots of Zoom meetings, lots of Zoom therapy.
Of course. Yeah, we've been doing that a lot too. I've been even have meetings, Zoom meetings, first responder related. And it didn't take that long to get used to. Well, actually, we're doing Zoom right now. We're just not video.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So I'm used to it. And I think it's things are going to change a little bit once we get out of the fog. But, first responders, we don't have the opportunity not to do our work. We still have to do it. We have to do it safely. Some of us are getting infected, and we're pushing through to keep everybody safe. And I think it's great what you're doing. And you're a lovely, lovely woman, Nancy. You really are. If none of you have ever met her in person, Nancy is amazing. And you are, and you greet me with a smile every time. You're happy to do what you're doing, and I could tell just by being in your presence that you have the passion to help others and make sure that people know that they're not alone. If you're sitting listening to this and you feel like you're not alone, believe me.
Well, thank you, because that's a huge compliment to me, because I am actually, to tell you, I'm very happy. I'm a very content, happy, grounded person, but it feels really good that you feel good when you see me. And that means a lot.
Of course, definitely. I mean, we all get stressed out. We all have to do our jobs and get things done. And there's things weighing on us that might be personal issues and not maybe work related. And we have to do our job. However, when we work as a team and we work together, we might not like the person 100%. We might have some issues with something else, but we get the job accomplished. And feeling like you have a voice that you can actually stand up and say, look, I have a problem. I trust that The information I give you is going to be confidential. It's not going to get back to my command. It's not going to get back to anybody. I need to spill some stuff out, break the seal a little bit, let it out, and so I can feel better because I can't hold this in anymore. And a lot of first responders, they wind up, unfortunately, taking their own lives, and it's really a shame, and it's sad that they might have felt like there was no hope at all, and they were too ashamed to get help, and really you're not alone. Me being in a group in person with first responders, 15, 20 first responders at one time in a group is the most, I don't know how to say it. I am so grateful to be in their presence, because I look at every one of them and I tell them in person too. And I go, you know what, how lucky I am that you are here right now, because I could look back and I could remember when this did not exist. And you were the same people that I worked with. And I could see that in them. And they have such courage. And I tell them, you have a courage for stepping through the door and at least like taking that chance. And some of them, they might have gotten in trouble. Some of them maybe haven't been in law enforcement for a couple of years. And some of them are active duty and they're taking a break. And I would say almost 100% of everybody that's in here, their command staff or people, their peer support, or someone out on the outside, some of their support structure, they know where they're at, and it's okay. And that just brings a smile to my face every time I'm driving to work. Every time I get up and I get out of bed and drive down here, because it's amazing.
Well, you know what, knowing your story, we always say that there's a silver lining. And, to me, the silver lining for you is the lives you get to touch now, because right now, Mike, you would not be where you are with Simple Recovery if you did not go through that time.
No, you're right. And I wouldn't have met you, and I wouldn't have met a bunch of other awesome people who are on a great path to bring about positive change and help break the stigma of mental health issues among first responders and others too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being on the show. It's so beneficial. And you said you have so much information to give, people listening right now that want to get a hold of you. I'll put your website and your numbers on the podcast itself. Do you want to give out any emails or anything? Someone can contact you, send you an email?
Sure. If anybody needs any help, we would I'd always take the time to talk to them, and I can steer them in different directions. But our number is 1-800-222-9691, and our website is thecounselingteam.com, and email would be cteamnbowl@aol.com.
Someone's yelling right now. I have to repeat that again. One more time.
I'm sorry. Repeat all of it.
Well, usually when I'm listening to a podcast and they give a number out, I try to write it down. Then I'm thinking an email too. And then pretty soon,
no problem.
I get frustrated. So there's probably someone out there frustrated right now. So just repeat it again.
No problem. Phone number is 1-800-222-9691, and the website is thecounselingteam.com, and peer support is the pspsa.org, and the email would be cteamnbowl@aol.com.
You're awesome, Nancy. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome, Mike. Thank you for asking me anytime, and good luck with you. And thank you again for doing what you're doing.
You bet. You bet. Have a great rest of your week and day. And
yes, and wash your hands.
Oh, definitely. And I'll see you in November, right? November 6th?
Yep. November 2nd to the 6th.
Okay, great. All right,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Hey, hold
Okay,
on,
bye-bye.
hold the line for 1 second, and then I'll talk to you
Okay.
off the air. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And everybody listening, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to Positive Connections Radio, in affiliation with Mental Health News Radio. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, be strong, stand up, speak your truth, and break the stigma.